Fense Post.
Good afternoon, Grain Valley, and welcome to our, I think by now, our tens of subscribers to our podcast.
Maybe a dozen.
Maybe a dozen. Maybe a
dozen.
baker's dozen.
A baker's dozen.
We really, truly appreciate it. And just like we mentioned in our intro, you know, we're really learning how to do this. It's a two-man crew. We set up all the audio. By we, I mean Matt. Figures out the levels and all that stuff. Matt again. And we're learning as we go. And so, unfortunately for Marty, we're still learning.
We are still learning. And what you're about to see is our inaugural podcast where we learned a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll see what we learned because it's not exactly where we maybe
The audio isn't the best we'd like, but it is definitely playable. I definitely want you to get the great information from her. And I'm just seeing this as a positive. Yeah. All this means is what?
It means we get to have Marty back on.
We got to have Marty back on to talk about things. So actually, that will be a small series I would like to start with Marty. I know I haven't even talked to you about this. Is a History of Grain Valley series where we talk about little things for like 5 minutes at a time, and we can get that history out to the people.
History of Grain Valley with Marty Napier.
With Marty Napier, her own little series within the Fence Post. So we hope you enjoy it. Once again, sorry for the little audio-visual issues, more audio than visual.
Just know that we're going to get better. We're already better, and the next one will be way better.
And we have a lot of people lined up. And once again, if there's anybody you think we should be talking to, reach out. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good afternoon, Grain Valley. Welcome to the first official episode of the Fence Post podcast. Real, is it? Well, the first one, hopefully, that's out to the public. The 12th overall. Only the second here with Marty. Right. My name is Jason Finstermaker, my co-host Matt Nettles, and we have our first guest here, Marty Napier. Hello, Marty.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Matt.
All right, well, for those of you that don't know, Marty is part of the Historical Society. Not officially the Historical Society president, right?
No, I'm more the
curator
of the museum.
Yeah. So first, the address is 506 Main Street here in Grain Valley, close to another establishment we know of, Iron Kettle Brewing, brought to you here by the Fence Post Podcast, hosted in the Iron Kettle Studios.
Fense Post.
Yes.
High above downtown Grain Valley.
Yes. The glorious view.
Yeah. So, just first of all, tell us kind of what the Historical Society is.
The Historical Society is a way to preserve the past as a legacy for the future at Grain Valley. It was started back in 1992 by a group of citizens that were interested in doing just that, preserving the past as a legacy to the future.
Yeah, I know as we were working on Iron Kettle Brewing, it took about 11 months for us to get this building up and running, and I know that, you know, we came close and got to know each other a lot over those times because you're obviously interested in history, preserving it especially, and I'm into history as well. And we got to know that we kind of had a little bit of a connection with my second favorite country, and that's Scotland.
And my second favorite country, since I'm half Scotch.
Yeah. So kind of talk about Scotch. No, half Scotch is later.
That's
But kind of how does your family connection go back to Scotland?
Well, my father was actually born in Scotland, so my grandparents immigrated to the United States shortly after he was born, and they lived in Michigan for a few years, and then in 1922, they came to Grain Valley.
Nice. And I know my grandma was born in Scotland, so I'm a quarter. My grandpa was met her in World War II, brought over here after the war and married her, so I still have family that I go see over there, but we've had that close connection talking about Scotland. You donated some pictures for our wall downstairs, not of Scotland, of England. But still nice pictures downstairs, the area downstairs.
The right continent.
Yeah. And so your family came here, you said 1922. 22. So kind of as the Historical Society person, what was Grain Valley like back then?
You're asking me what it was like in 1922?
From the historical side, Marty,
Academic knowledge, not from
I
your
know I'm
understanding.
old, but it wasn't around.
Not your personal knowledge.
1922. Actually, my mother's family came in 1854. And so I really go back further than that. But in the 1920s, Grand Valley was really quite a little booming town. Actually, in the late 20s, there were 3 hotels in the downtown area and restaurants, and a lot of that was due to Snybar Farms. And of course, as you know, my grandfather came here to work and manage Snybar Farms, which he did from 1922 until it was sold in 1945.
And for those of you that aren't familiar, Snybar Farms is, of course, the area south of Grand Valley, south of the high school, that subdivision, Snybar Farms, is it estates, just Snybar Farms?
Snybar Farms, and it's farms and not Snybar Farm because when William Rockwell Nelson came out to Grand Valley around, I've heard everything from 1906 to 1908, and started buying property, he bought up a lot of small farms. And that's why it's Snybar Farms, plural, and not Snybar Farm.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and most people, I would say nowadays, the younger generation doesn't know that Grand Valley actually was multiple towns, of course, with the 2
Yeah.
major ones being what? Pink Hill
Pink Hill and Stony Point.
and Stony Point. So you had one on the north side of town, Pink Hill,
Right.
and on the south side, Stony Point, and then the infamous railroad tracks came through. Yeah.
I just tell people that complain about the railroad tracks and the trains stopping, that if it weren't for the Chicago and Alton Railroad being built in the 1870s, there would be no Grand Valley.
Yeah.
There might be a Pink Hill and there might be a Stony Point, but there would be no Grand Valley because
Yeah, and
the
so
road came here, the railroad came here.
so that kind of drove both cities, obviously, to migrate in and then
Right.
develop one community. And so that, what year was the first, around when was it? What was the first depot built?
The first depot was built when the train came through, so it could have been finished as early as 1878, 1879 at the latest, because the railroad came through in 78. And the town was well, it depends on what you call established. The village of Grand Valley came about on September 5th of 1878, when land was given, 4.1 acres of land was given by a man named Lucas, who actually lived in Illinois and was kind of a land speculator and may never have actually lived or been in Grand Valley. But the land was surveyed, and it was actually 4 acres on the east side of what is now Main Street. And it only went from Walnut down to 3rd Street, just across the railroad tracks. So the first depot was on the south side of the railroad tracks and just east of Main Street, or Butner-Tarsi Road, as some people call it. And that railroad station burned in 1922, and the second station was built on the north side of the tracks and west of Main Street.
In that vacant lot south of the bank, right?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
And that one was there till they tore it down in...
The late 60s. The last train went through, I believe, around 1959.
Now, I believe I know one person that was on that
I
train.
heard that there's somebody we know that was on that last train.
What?
So tell us about that infamous last train ride out of Grand Valley.
Well, the last train, we call it the Doodle Bug. And the train came through in the morning and left the mail, and then it came through in the evening and picked up and left mail. And so there was a big deal that the last train was going to go through. It was in the summer, And my dad thought that I would like to ride the train. So we bought 3 tickets, one for me, one for my cousin's wife, and one for their daughter, who was about 2 years old. So that's where I'm coming up with, I think it was 1959. And we rode from Grain Valley. We got on the train in Grain Valley, and we rode to the station in Independence. And of course, when we got up around where Independence Center is now, to the area called Salsa, Jesse James and his band of outlaws got on the train and robbed it. And, they rode, it was part of the Jackson County Sheriff's Posse.
With you on it?
Yeah, we were on the train. They got on.
How'd you survive? Did you disarm them?
Oh, God, yeah. Well,
Marty, you overpowered them.
actually,
You appealed to Jesse's more
Jesse
kind
James
side.
was actually a Sheriff's Posse member, and it was Bill Gabriel, who lived south or north of Grain Valley for many, many years, and his family kind of grew up here. And Mr. Gabriel was part of that Jackson County Sheriff's Posse, and he got to play Jesse James.
It wasn't real?
I don't think it was real.
Well,
I wasn't too.
I believe my family moved here. My dad and mom, after getting married, moved here in '76. And at the time, we were on the newest street, I think, in Grain Valley, which was up Broadway to Valley Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and across from the high school was all cornfield that I played in as a kid. And when they started building that, I was like, oh my gosh, they're building the new subdivision. Me and my friends still call that the new subdivision.
There might be a few more new ones.
Yeah, significantly. And I don't know if you know, Matt's family actually ties back to Grain Valley a little bit. Matt, how's your family tie back?
I actually have a couple connections. My cousins grew up here, and of course, one of them is a teacher at the high school with us. But
Hold on.
No.
His cousins grew up here and lived in the house I grew up
is that right?
Wow.
in. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, the house I'm talking about on Broadway?
Yeah.
They lived there.
And who are your cousins?
Tiffany Nevels, who became Tiffany
Oh,
Lane,
okay.
and
Yes.
Jennifer. Yeah.
Does culinary.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Your
your
arts teacher. But I have an even bigger connection. My grandmother graduated from Grain Valley High School in 1957.
And her name was?
Clara Kent.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. She rode my bus.
That's
And-
crazy. I didn't actually know.
I think, if I remember right, I think she was like homecoming queen or.
She talked. So this is
You're
in my
a
family. We
queen or
talked about this
something.
because she said that.
Yeah.
And we were like,
I'm pretty sure she
there
was.
might have been some of us were like, okay, Grandma, sure.
Because, see, she graduated in 57, you say?
57.
So I would have been in 4th grade. And when you rode the school bus with, and everybody rode the bus then, I mean,
Yeah.
how else did you get to school?
Right.
And she was on our route, and all of the older girls on our route, us elementary kids were like, wow. And then I sort of remember
the
her
homecoming queen is
Yeah.
riding
being
my
either
bus.
homecoming or yearbook or something,
Yeah.
but your grandmother was very pretty.
Yeah, that's
And,
when I see pictures. I think that's
Yeah. You'll have to come over to the Historical Society. We have all the yearbooks over there. I'm
Yeah.
sure I can find
Yeah,
a
we'll see if she's actually
Clarabelle.
was.
I remember them.
Clarabelle, she used to talk about how that was what the kids called her. She's like, I never really liked it. When I got older, I told people, don't call me Clarabelle. But when she was in school, that's what she was.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, everyone went by
Yeah.
their middle name.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, you better like your middle name because you were going to be called, Marshall Lee, and you were in trouble. You were really
Yeah,
going to
you
be
were
called
getting the whole
Marshall
thing,
Lee.
yeah.
You knew that.
Jason Alexander Fenstermaker is just a lot.
That's probably you didn't get called by your full name.
No.
You got more letters in your last name than I have in all 3.
Well, that's my full name would be Matthew Kent Nevels. Yeah, that's my middle name.
Oh, you're a kid.
Really?
Kent, yeah, it would have been
There you
her
go.
name.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's weird how, connections happen. That's the great thing about this town. I know I have tried to move away many times. haven't ever made it very far because I keep coming back. Yeah, it always pulls you back. There's just something about this town, these people in this town. You know, I know, you know, you, Marty, have seen it grow astronomical in your time frame.
Yes.
Because I know I have. And just in my time frame, it's grown tremendous. I mean, the fact that we have 4 elementaries, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, that's huge. I know when you went to school, did you go to the 2-story building?
I went to the 2-story building, and then in 1954, the elementary building was built. And I was in the elementary building in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I should have been there in 6th grade, but it was that year that they actually hired an elementary principal. And it was Moody Murray was the first elementary principal, but he was also the 8th grade teacher. And so he had to be in the elementary building. So we thought we were really cool because when we were in 6th grade, we got to go back to the high school.
Most people,
8th grade.
if anybody
was
recognizes that name Moody Murray, then that's because it's Moody Murray Community Field.
the football
The
field.
football
Yes.
field is named after Moody Murray then.
You know, I'm noticing she's sharing these stories, and I'm hearing these names that I recognize now: Stony Point and
Yeah.
Right.
Moody Murray. Yeah, like all these historical names have been incorporated. So.
And that's the one good thing about, I think, our town is it keeps growing, but we still keep somewhat of that small school identity. We still cherish our history. You know, I know you've asked me many times to get you stuff for this historical society, and I just keep telling you, I'm not old enough. I have too new a stuff. You don't want anything from the 90s and the 2000s, but you just keep reminding me that what?
Yesterday is history.
Yesterday is history, yeah.
And if it happened yesterday, you know, it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, and so I know you're constantly asking for things from the Historical Society. I know you take things.
Begging is more
Begging is more like it. So kind of understand this. If you're a son or a daughter or a child of the Grand Valley alum or anything, and you have some of your parents' old stuff, please bring it up to Marty. Not saying all of it will make it to the Historical Society, because some stuff isn't quite, you know, not worthy.
Some stuff might belong in the basement.
Some stuff might not.
Actually, if it's Grand Valley, we're going to keep it as long as we have space.
Yeah.
If it is Grand Valley, I mean, it can be anything from a Christmas program at school to a church dedication, a school dedication. I really try to get things like pictures of like the band when they were in the Thanksgiving parade. Still haven't found one of the band, if anybody out there has one, when they marched in the Thanksgiving parade. I believe it was in 89 or 90 in Chicago.
Huh.
And that was really the first time the
If
band
you were part of the band,
went out
find
and
the
marched.
picture. Yeah.
You'd be about 50 now, I think. But you know, those are the kinds of things that people see now. But, you know, 20 years from now, they're going to go, oh yeah, I was on that wrestling team that won the conference championship in 2020.
And as we start getting more digital, I understand you have so many pictures on your phone and stuff like that, but you can email them to the Historical Society too, because I know you take digital stuff, and if you have a picture that you don't want to give the Historical Society, I know.
Bring it down. I will scan it, and you can watch me, or you can touch it. I don't even have to handle it. I'll let you lay it on the scanner. I'll scan it, and you can have it right
And
back.
if you haven't been to the Historical Society, it's very neat, the history of Grand Valley. And the good news is, like she said, history is yesterday, so it's always growing. What hours can they come in?
Well, we're kind of limited in that I'm the only person that
Curator
that is willing to give up my time right now. So I'm there on Wednesdays, and I advertise 10 to 3. I'm usually there by 8:30 or 9, and I leave when I leave. If there's someone there, they'll say, oh, it's 3 o'clock, we've got to go, and we're into something, then I don't care. But I also am willing to go in by appointment anytime. For example, a few months ago, there was a man here that grew up in this area and now lives in Sweden, I believe he told me, or Switzerland. And, it just so happened that he came in on the right day, but I would have opened for him. I have opened for high school students that are doing research. And I would love to have high school students, especially in history, and do more research. I'm always happy to do that. I've had some high school kids that have done part of their production television.
Well, especially the way they can make things digital and creative and design and all that stuff. That's why I know the wrestling team started in 1995, and we're going strong now. So we can get pictures throughout the years and start collecting and adding to it.
Right.
If it's a digital yearbook of just a particular sport or an activity or an area or a building or something, it'd be nice to have all that digitized of one particular thing. So that way we can always, we can keep that history in mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I know there's many times we talked and said, what was in that building, and we know about it for a certain time frame, and then we know it after a certain time frame. But there might be a chunk we have no idea.
There's a gap in there, and we don't have pictures. I'm embarrassed to say my father owned a hardware store in Green Valley from 1949 to 1959. It burned. I do not have a single picture of that hardware store. Nothing. It was at a time when I couldn't afford a lot of film for my little brownie Hawkeye. Was it 620 roll of film? And
So you didn't keep 100 photos on your camera? on your
no,
phone back then?
I sure didn't.
Yeah, there was no such thing as photo dumping on Facebook like people do nowadays.
Right, and
Yeah.
so there's just a lot of things that, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a picture from 1930. It could be a picture from 1990 when the Historical Society was Campbell's Gun Shop. Or it could be a picture from 1950 when the Iron Kettle was Kroll's grocery store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
And I think, history can't be preserved by one person. It can be curated by one person so far.
And it is being
pretty
curated.
much.
but it can't be
I'd
preserved
like to
by
have
one.
help. I would take help.
Yeah.
But-
So I think it's vital that the younger generation definitely get involved in preserving their own history, making sure that it's preserved for people, in the future, but also get involved so they can help just pass everything on to the next generation. I think that's the important thing.
So to our listeners out there, if you're interested.
Well, this is only our first episode, so we're up to, I hope, 7 lists. Well, we brought Marty on to boost up our ratings. So,
Yeah,
So
right.
now we get a ratings bump. from
yes. But no, I truly appreciate, coming on, Marty. Matt and I decided to do this thing. It's just, I've always wanted to just talk Green Valley history and been thinking about doing something like this for a few years now and needed a person to set everything up and me kind of yell out on occasion and I've come to know Matt over the next little bit, and he volunteered and said, I think I can handle it. And I said, well we're going to do it. And the first person we're going to have on is Marty Napier because I love going next door and just talking to you. So I truly appreciate your time.
Yeah, and as a Green Valley transplant and somebody who's really seen what a fun community this is, I'm getting excited about the history and I'm learning all kinds of things I didn't know, and it's fun to think about, my grandma being a part of this community all those years ago.
Yeah. So Marty, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Get her stuff.
Yep.
Get her stuff. Let's get her more stuff that she knows what to do with. Okay, Green Valley.
Inundate
Yes.
the Green Valley Historical Society.
There we go. I'd love it.
For Matt, Marty, I'm Jason. Thank you all very much. Good afternoon, Green Valley. Have a wonderful evening.
We'll see you.
The Fense Post.